MJ's here.
MJ is here.
Jason's here. We got quads. We got bikes. Florida's acting like it didn't want to let go of winter. So we're outside on the porch today to do episode 47 and a half of the Beyond the Curve, the MX podcast goes off-road, off-track, and who names it. And first of all, we want to say we're sorry last week. We had an episode we were shooting 22 minutes in. I had a family emergency, so that episode went bye-bye, and it never happened. So we're going to start from scratch. We're going to touch on the GNCC that was. We're going to talk about the FTR race from this past weekend, and we're going to touch on the GNCC that's about to happen this week, round 4 up in Coker, South Carolina. So welcome, everybody. Welcome, Jason. Welcome, MJ. And we're going to talk some FTR because Supercross was this weekend up in Indy, and according to Derek and I, it wasn't really that exciting. But the FTR race this weekend on one of the best tracks of the year, according to the voters, was exciting on Saturday and Sunday. So let's dive in. You both were there as racers. I am in the middle because I don't race. I just watch. So let's talk about it. MJ, what was your impression of the Dade City Haulin Tail Harescramble this weekend?
So overall, I think it was pretty good. This is the first year I've raced it on the adult track because every other year I'm usually working this event. We have some buddies who are a part of the club, so usually I'm working the Pee Wee track.
They let him play at the big boys table.
Yeah. So, but I did race the dirt bike this weekend and the quad. Both I only got one lap in, but I will tell you, the beginner class was massive this weekend. Jason, I don't think you were there on Saturday, were you? No. So I actually started in the row behind the beginner class because the row was so filled. So I started the row behind. We all started on our bikes. So it was almost like a GNCC. There was no Le Mans start. So on my first lap and only lap, I checked in 63rd place out of 77 riders, I think.
We got to work on that.
Yeah, we got to work on that a lot.
But what did you feel this weekend that you had never felt before that you're going to have to start working through?
So this was the first race that I've experienced so far that has had roots and a lot of roots. And I was telling you this yesterday. The entire race, I just heard Trey's voice in my head. Go straight over the roots. Do not try and turn over the roots in these corners. Just go straight and then turn.
And then he just kept going.
Yeah.
I know I'm going to turn at some point.
Yeah, but it was good. I had fun.
How long was the track on Saturday?
On Saturday, it was 9 miles. I think on Sunday, it was 12 miles, right?
Yeah.
So it was good, though. The track on Saturday, I really enjoyed it.
Did you jump the jump?
I got about 2 inches of air off the jump, and that's about it.
It's like trying to drive a dump truck over a speed bump.
Yeah, pretty much. So, but I will say this is my last FTR of the year. So I think in the meantime, I'm going to get the suspension sent off for the dirt bike and get it actually sprung for me and not,
for a wee lad?
Pounds.
For a wee lad, not a fat man.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
we're going to get it sprung for me because I've learned that, it helps if your suspension actually compresses over things and doesn't deflect off the side of them.
So basically he's riding James Stewart's bike because it doesn't move.
Yeah.
You're right.
Like if you were riding James Stewart's bike, that's what I'm doing right now. Yeah. Because it does not, I'll go over a route and instead of going, and instead of the forks compressing when I go over the route, it just stays stiff and goes right to the either side of the route. So
yeah. I'm definitely thinking I would like to know how many spring rates you can actually go down. What do you think? You're pretty good on that stuff. How many spring rates is he going to go
down? And yours is in there?
Mine's in there now.
At 190 pounds, right?
Yeah.
Is what you were?
190, 194, something like that.
Probably about 3 or 4-ish, give or take.
Dude, you're going to hop in the thing. It's going to be like, oh. pillows.
I know. It's gonna be like I'm riding on clouds at that point.
Because it'll be spring rate for suspension or shock and forks, right?
Yeah.
Now you wouldn't have you wouldn't have to change valving, would you? Just spring rate?
If you
would
did
you think?
If you did it correctly, yes.
So what would you be changing in the valving? Just the valve stacks, I guess.
Well, the way it is valved, because valving isn't just one size fits all.
Yeah.
So, like, if you brought it to him, hey, I'm a beginner rider riding this, I weigh this, then okay, he's going to spring it to your weight, but to do it properly, it will be revalved to a beginner rider capability.
So it's going to be softer.
Yeah.
Yes, you would have a softer.
So you would want your valve stacks to have more fluid pushing through them, or let's say for like example purposes, you would want bigger holes in your valve stack so that it pushes more fluid when you go over stuff, because you're going over stuff so
Well,
much
ours
slower.
is done with shims. It's different.
Okay. See, I think my stuff is like on the quad side is there's holes that the fluid. Now I could be.
I mean,
completely
there
wrong.
is all that does exist, but the valve stack itself is shims that are different thicknesses and sizes that are
Okay.
stacked certain ways, and that's what equals
Ah.
what you're trying to accomplish. The valve stack is it's like that. They take it apart and then they lay the shims out a certain way and
They
measure.
do the black magic
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah, black magic on it. And they
But,
know what they're doing.
But overall, you had an experience that you're going to learn from. And on the quad side, I guess you had an experience you're going to learn from, and your future brother-in-law had an experience that's going to empty a checkbook.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, bye-bye wedding in a few months.
But the track was good.
Track was good.
Does it hold up to its hype?
I think so. I think it's one of the better tracks throughout the year. Now, Brooksville is always going to be my favorite track just because it is my favorite track, and that's just what it is. I like the way it's laid out, and it's the race I always look forward to as a kid as well, because it was like the one track out of the year that the Pee Wee track was halfway decent. So I've always just really enjoyed Brooksville, but I think this race, now that I've raced it on the adult track, is probably a very close second, just due to the fact of it has a good mixture between fields and woods, I would say. And especially, I really like the pine section in the back. And then I know Jason runs it every year, but this was the first year the Saturday track was able to go back to where the Pee Wee track used to be. And so...
Yeah, they've never, what they did this year, they've never done that before. We've always, the track's gone out to the road, to, what's the road that runs, Johnston or whatever. Yeah. Like, we would go out to the road, you could see it, but then we would turn well before getting to where the Pee Wee track tied in.
Oh, see, I thought y'all would like run the Pee Wee track, of the Pee Wee track on Sunday.
They've never done that before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was all what they added in there, which is only...
It was only a little bit of it, but...
That was all a new deal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
They found that little creek bed, and that was fun. So they added that in.
Yeah, we just crossed it that one time. Yeah, that was it.
But no, I think on both of y'all can attest to this. I think with you getting a landowner that enjoys having the people there.
Yeah.
And I mean, he was out at the mud hole watching the carnage because he thinks it's fabulous. He's the one that, hey, I'm willing to take down fences. I'm willing to move this. I'm willing to open up this section. You get an owner like that, and you get landowners around who have gotten used to once a year there's going to be motorcycles.
Yeah, there's a little bit of noise for a couple of days, and that's it.
And there's a beautiful horse farm right next to this race, and those horses seem like they didn't care one bit. So,
but the owners used to care a lot.
They used to care a lot, and then I think at one point the club offered them a trip or compensation.
Yeah,
and I think since then it's kind of become like, hey, look, they're not that bad. They're here for one time, and then it's quiet, and they, for the most part, clean up after themselves.
I guarantee you cannot hear us out on Bellamy Brothers Road like we can hear all the crotch rockets on the race property.
It sounded like a racetrack out there on Sunday.
Really?
Literally, it sounded like a racetrack going across.
So who's worse?
Yeah. Yeah. And there was a decent crowd for both sides. I mean, you were
Yes.
commenting on Sunday pulling in how many people there were, and it seemed like there was a decent crowd on Saturday for the quad race. But I'm glad you liked the track and you thought it was good. And we'll dive into kind of what you saw and some of the results stuff. But I want to get your impression on the track. They tie in part of the quad track, but there seemed like there was a good amount of motorcycle stuff available too.
Yeah.
So you made the comment that the track sucked the first lap and a half because stuff that not even to do with quads per se, but like routes that were hidden were finally exposed after a lap and a half.
Everything was still covered up from the get go, which is kind of odd. I mean, normally by the time we get to it at 1 o'clock, everything's normally exposed and you see everything. But everything was still covered up, hidden. All you did was just hit and deflect off everything, and then finally half a lap through on the second lap, it started opening up and got better, which for slow guy,
Yeah.
to go faster over that stuff. Normally, if you can see it and like it's exposed, you can pick your spot.
Yeah.
To where you want to go.
Compared
Like
to if you can't see it, you don't know where
exactly.
you're going. Right?
Like by the last lap in the Rudy sections where it's just fingers like that across.
Yeah.
The original trail, obviously there's still people using that, but the fast race line was way to the inside, going over the clumps that are coming off the trees, so you had humps.
Yeah.
That was the fast line. So like you're hitting that and just kind of hopping over everything and bouncing. As long as and it still applies as long as you're going in a straight line, not trying to do that real quick, you're good. But that stuff is solid and dry, where out here is wet and slick.
Now I'll tell you, talking about, you just mentioned fast line. You know, when I used to listen to podcasts and stuff like that with pro riders, especially on the GNCC side, they say the first lap after the morning race always sucks because the ruts aren't laid over in the corners, like how they get so low to the ground.
Yeah.
And I never really understood that until I got passed by a pre-mod A guy at, what was the race before this? Indiantown or?
I think Indiantown.
No,
Okeechobee.
Yeah.
Whatever the race was before this one. And I just got blown by in a field section by this pre-mod A guy. And we were both coming into a left-hand corner. And he obviously got to the corner before me. But where I was, it wasn't intentional, but I kind of pushed him towards where he had to, instead of railing this berm, he kind of had to meet the berm halfway, kind of in the apex of it. And he just laid it over, came in, and then just took right back off.
Yeah.
And I was like I thought he was going to crash. Like, I thought he was sliding into the berm because he lost control. I mean, I thought he was just going to crash in front of me and I was going to have nowhere to go and just absolutely wad myself. But then he laid it over and just took right back off again.
Yeah.
And it was just like, I think I talked about it on the podcast before, but it was like the most shocking thing I've ever seen in my life, because, you know, on a quad, you're not doing that on a quad, just laying it over like that. But yeah, you just mentioned fast lines and it made me think of that.
Yeah, it got better as the race went on. Everything kind of developed and opened up and got faster. And I mean, if you looked at my race time, my first lap sucked, and by the last lap, I'd shaved 4 minutes off of my first lap time, which is pretty decent, my normal way I do things.
Usually losing 4 minutes off your first lap time? Or?
No, I mean, as the race goes on, I get faster.
You just got to warm up, or?
The lines get better, right?
I mean, the lines get better, and like,
as long as the weather's good.
Yeah.
It was a day like yesterday where it was warm, tracks drying out, tracks dry.
Yeah. But yeah, I start off slow and I get faster. Basically, I learned a long time ago when I started back racing that I'm not getting paid money. Ain't nobody sponsoring me. Ain't nobody. It doesn't matter. So and you'll hear it on the line from guys in the same situation. Oh yeah, we're just gonna have fun. Da, 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 da. Well, they go out there balls to the wall and do a lot of stupid stuff when really there's no need for it.
Yeah.
So on the first lap, I go out there, let them do whatever dumb stuff they're gonna do. They get it out of the way. I'm able to settle into my pace, do what I want to do, and then once I'm good, I just start picking it up. And then by the end of the race, I'm running close to the leader's pace. I'm just doing it at the end of the race instead of the first lap. So I just function different, and that's why I like enduros better, because you go out there, you get warmed up real quick, and then it's game on the rest of the day.
Yeah.
You're good to go. Where this is, it takes me about a lap, and then I got
But by the end of the lap, you probably lost so much time.
Yeah.
Just trying to warm up that it.
Normally, I mean, this race it was about a 4-minute difference. Normally it's at least a couple minutes on average that there's a difference.
What was the best part of the track to you? I know that there's so many different sections on this track that it's kind of hard to like say one, but there's the flowing woods, there's the fields, there's the back part, there's the pines, there's the creeks.
I mean, honestly, I liked the pine section. It was actually laid out pretty nice. We did not run the same layout that they ran on Saturday. It was its own thing.
So they changed it up.
Yeah, because there's a couple spots where if you looked over, you could see their tracks. So we were on our own thing. But it just had a nice flow to it. It was sandy. It wasn't like blown out. There was still decent moisture in the ground. But it developed nicely and had a good flow, and for whatever reason, I just seemed to like that.
And this is one of the tracks you were talking about. You saw people, and I don't know how it was on Saturday, but apparently this track has a little better viewing options than most of the other. I mean, they're still not letting you go out across the road over into the other pasture and out that way, but the viewing, were there people out there this year?
I saw a lot of people everywhere.
Yeah.
This year.
I mean, I'm sure if I pulled it up on Google Maps, I could tell you where they were, but I know like there's some type of structure over there on the backside of the pine section. I don't know what it is, but there was a bunch of people there.
Yeah, same way on Saturday.
And then I know there were some people out by the road or somewhere on the other end. Like there was people everywhere.
I think it comes down to landowner though, don't you? Because FTR's usual excuse of like why
I've never seen that many people out there at that place.
Because we were wandering all over the place.
Yeah.
Which was nice. Usually, most of the time, FTR is like, no, you can't go out there. Landowner doesn't want the liability of y'all being out there.
Yeah.
And since this landowner kind of...
Yeah, he made you. I don't know. But yeah, there was people everywhere.
Did you guys, and I didn't get to go out that far, when you're in the field section, you cross over to go to the other field section into the back part of the woods, did we run down that road at all, or did we just cross over the road this year? Because I know the last time I raced it, boy, we made a mess on that road.
I didn't cross over any road this year.
There's a road out there. There's a dirt road. Like a path.
I didn't
cross over a road?
No, I've never seen a road.
Oh yeah, you come out of one pasture, go across the road into the field around that little flag pond.
No, okay. So
it's like a farm road. It's not a real road. It's a little farm road. And I know we made a mess of that a couple years ago on that road, digging down, coming out of it, and like huge. I was thinking, wow, someone's got to come out with a blade and box that back.
So I don't remember crossing anything like.
That's because you guys are in the zone. I looked at it because it was a nice relaxation.
Could have been zoned in from my perfect start. You know, I was trying to make sure I pulled away from everybody. And my total, definitely whole shot start, not dead last start.
Well, while he's looking up.
Okay, I see what road you're talking. Okay, yes, we did cross that.
Did you just cross it, or did you go? Because the year I raced it, we went down that road just a piece.
No, we've never. Okay, I know what you're talking about. No, we did not do that.
Okay.
We've only done that a couple of times.
Yeah.
But
maybe they fixed that.
But yes, we did cross it.
Okay.
Once or twice.
Where are you at?
Google Maps.
Well, yeah, but like, where are you at on the property? I don't remember crossing
It's
over
on the
road.
far northwest side of the property.
Unless it was a Sunday only thing.
I thought you guys went out there. No, you guys go out there.
You go.
Oh, then I must have crossed it and not realized it then.
So
I mean, I remember going through gates and stuff, but
that's your crossing road.
oh, okay.
And there's a flag pond out there. There's like a little pond.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was so, I was so zoned in trying to pull away
His
from everybody.
tinted
off my
goggles
bull
were
shot.
very tinted. He had very tinted goggles on.
Yeah, I had blackout goggles on, like limo tint.
He was VR. You
know those new Apple, what are they called? Apple Vision Pro things.
Yeah.
That's what.
Well, let's touch while he's looking stuff up. Let's touch because they had a little trouble. I guess there was some transponder issues. We welcome back after a huge crash at Dade City a couple of years ago or a year ago. Chuck Frazier made his triumphant return to racing.
Yes.
And I wanted to give him a little shout out because he's been following his son around, blogging and doing everything else and racing his car. And I'll be damned, he went out and he could still ride.
No, yeah. So if you guys don't know, Chuck had a really bad crash with his property. I think 3 years ago now, where he
crushed his face.
Yeah, crushed his face. I think shattered both the eye sockets, or at least cracked both the eye sockets, and yeah, it was just really nasty. But he has not been back to this property since then. I think just due to that fact, and so all this week I've been going back and forth, or all last week I was going back and forth with them, like, because at Auburndale Speedway, the class he races for his car, had a race going on. So all week I was texting him. I was like, "Hey, are you racing this weekend?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm not too sure yet because I know Brandon's gonna be racing, so I'm not sure if I want to race or not." Well, we must have not been on the same page, or maybe we are on the same page, and he was just trying to mislead me. But I'm talking to Brandon Friday night while I'm loading up, and I'm like, "Hey, did your dad ever decide whether or not he was going to race the car this weekend or not?" He's like, "Car?" I was like, "Yeah, they're at Auburndale." He's like, "No, he was never contemplating racing a car. He was talking about whether or not he was going to race the quad this weekend."
I bet you the quad might have more horsepower than the car.
I think I don't know.
Close, right?
That's got to be. So the motor he has in his car is out of a Dodge Neon.
Yeah, then probably.
So now I'm curious.
Dodge Neon versus 1,000 cc.
Yeah,
y'all can make a little filler here while I look this up. Dodge Neon horsepower.
I'm thinking the quad has more horsepower, and I bet you it has quicker acceleration.
Well, yeah, power to weight ratio.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so this is saying, I'm assuming depending on what motor
it's usually a 2.5 4-cylinder.
Yeah, it's a smaller 4-banger.
So 132 horsepower.
Okay.
And my quad stock has 91 horsepower.
So it's still, but the quad's still going to be faster.
Yeah,
Power
because the power
to
weight ratio.
And I guarantee,
So he had thrill in the thumbs this weekend.
I'll tell you, this weekend I didn't run the GoPro, so I could see my dash. This weekend, and on one of those field sections, I looked down, and I was sitting at 65 miles an hour.
Did you crap yourself?
Almost. Because usually I can't see my dash, so I'm just guessing. I'm like, oh, I'm probably going, 55, maybe 60 miles an hour. But when I was only halfway through this straightaway, still gaining speed, I look down and I see 65. I just immediately look back up because I'm like, I don't want to see how fast I'm going. Like, I'm going to keep that block from now on because, I don't know, 65, you're cruising down the road in your car at 65 miles an hour is nothing. But when you're just out in the open, one mistake and you're going flying.
Chases you down.
Yeah.
At 65 miles per hour.
That's a big boy to be chasing you down.
But no, I wanted to give a quick mention to Chuck because welcome back. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
You do so much for your son and chase him around and the fact that you got back on and you had a good race. I mean, he actually had a good race in the utility class, and congratulations to him. But Brandon, the local 4x4 guy, pro, has won 2 races. He finished second, but then we get the other GNCC guy down here training. He finishes first. So
yeah,
what's anything? Did you get any takes from them? How they felt? What they're prepping for? Because Coker is actually, I'm guessing, somewhat similar to.
Yeah, so Coker's very sandy base, but it's a solid, like a really nice clay sand mixture.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, Coker actually gets worse in some sections than Florida does in other sections. Because usually Florida, other than this year, usually Florida's pretty dry. So the whoops are very rounded. They don't really get super deep and super rough because or if they do get deep, they're really easy because they're just up and down and up and down. But at Coker, it's usually pretty wet, or at least the ground has moisture in it, and so you really dig out those whoops there, and they kind of like Florida did this year where they V out, and so it gets really rough there.
Peaky and choppy.
Exactly.
They got a little bit of that clay. I mean, I don't know how close Sumter is to Coker.
Sumter's nice.
But it's that same. It's that. But that Coker's it's like a orangey clayish sand. It's sandy.
Yeah.
But it's not like Dade City sand.
Yeah.
But it's not Gainesville Blue Groove.
Yeah.
Either. So it's kind of the mix. But Sumter was more of a clayish. There was some sand in those.
I mean, sections. It had some. It held together very well, but it had moisture in it too.
Yeah.
And it was cold.
Yes.
Very cold.
Yes, it was cold.
Yeah. So I didn't talk to Hunter after the race this weekend, but I did talk to Brandon. He said it was good. He lost power steering. The entire race he was without power steering.
How do you steer that without power steering?
It sucks.
Because in 4-wheel drive, doesn't you just want to go straight? Like you're kind of like...
It does suck. So at Florida and Georgia, for example, because it got so rutted out and you're basically in train tracks, if you were to lose power steering, it wouldn't be that big of a deal because you're just following the ruts anyways. Yeah. Well, on this track, at least from what I noticed, it didn't really get, mind you, I was only out there for a lap, but it didn't seem like it was going to get super train trackish or like really rut up like that, like how Georgia and Florida would. So I can only imagine how much fun he had this weekend racing without power steering. But the really funny part is that as soon as he went to crank up his quad leaving the finish line and ride it back to the pits, the power steering started working again.
You gotta love electronics. Is it a fly? I guess it's not fly by wire, but is it?
No, yeah, it's electronic power steering.
Electronic power steering.
Yeah.
The whole fly by wire thing scares me because they're talking about that with the motorcycles.
I'll tell you, the fly by wire thing caused my girlfriend to run into my dad this weekend while loading the quad into the trailer. So.
Oh really?
Well, I'm sure
What is it? I don't know what that is.
So it's electronic.
It's electronic, so it's not cable. It's electronic. So like, it sends signals. So you hit the throttle, but the throttle then sends a signal. It's not actually a throttle cable or a mechanism like you hit the gas or you twist the throttle, but there's no cable. It's all electronics that sends the information.
Like it's all Bluetooth. Wires to my throttle.
Somewhat Bluetooth, but yes, it may be a wire sending electronics, but it's not a cable where you're twisting.
Like so on my throttle, I have the fly-by-wire throttle. It's just a
electrical
pack of wires running from my throttle to the throttle body.
So instead of instead of a tensile wire that's wrapped around, it's just an electrode. You twist it, and there's an electrode plugged into it.
But I'll tell you, it's very touchy. It's very. So I'll tell you what. I wasn't
old stuff.
See, I wasn't a fan of it at first, and I don't know how I feel about it on anything other than what it is on now. Like a motorcycle would probably sketch me out. But I do like it because, I mean, you could go up to it. I mean, a toddler could push it in with their pinky finger.
Yeah. Like
a newborn toddler could push it in with their pinky finger. That's how easy it is to push in.
In the race car world, for years they've had fly-by-wire throttles and stuff, but now with the advent of the hybrid technology and their regenning, the brake on the rear, so the fronts, and I may be backwards, but the brakes on the front are brakes. The brakes on the back are fly-by-wire brakes, and you have to be able to change that bias so that you can regen a certain amount of power into that hybrid unit. So that feeling of you're hitting the brakes, and these brakes are reacting differently than these brakes. They can always have changed the bias. Like in NASCAR, you can change the bias of your brakes so if you're getting more front or back. But now that pressure on the front is through pressure on the front. The pressure on the back is, well, electronically we would like to change. So imagine that on a motorcycle. Like, oh, okay, well, the front brakes, you're hitting this, and it's that sensation of electronics. In the back, it's still your foot's hitting the brake pedal, and that's going to be, but that's coming because it changes, it makes it more technology. So it's going to come, and if it's already on a quad, it's going to come to motorcycles. I think BMW tried it, didn't they?
I have no idea.
I thought BMW tried it, but
I could see fly-by-wire stuff being on street bikes already. I don't know if it is, but I feel like I could see that on a street bike.
So
yeah, it's interesting.
Stuff. I have no desire to mess because it does, honestly, it doesn't work. It does not work, and it does not last because they've been doing this stuff with fire trucks for years, and the electronic stuff does not work.
I feel like water and electronics is always a sketchy thing.
Well, it's not even that. It's very. There's a lot to get into to try to like break it down to explain the differences, but it doesn't. It's not necessarily that part of it all the time. It's the functionality of it, because instead of things mechanically working, now you have sensors doing it.
Yeah.
Well, what the sensors are picking up and will shut down on a mechanical side of it, it'll work itself out. It just screws things up.
Well, exactly what happened to Brandon. It stopped working. Turned off the quad.
Yeah.
Restarted the quad to leave. Oh.
Yeah.
Well, it's like
we're rebooted.
It's the same thing with them going into limp mode like they do. Like what happened to me the past 2 GNCCs is like, eventually it'd work itself. I mean, I might blow up a motor like Bryce did, but like it would work. But it's my thing with all the electronics is it's just more stuff that could go wrong. So then when you're trying to diagnose an issue, it's like the 2-stroke, like a 2-stroke dirt bike. I mean, Jason, it doesn't start. Well, there's really only like 2 or 3 things that it could be that.
Well, with a carburetor, yes.
Yes.
But now that like
was it
KTM,
called TPI or
there's what are they? They are TB. I want to say TBI now. TPI is kind of like the PW50s where you have oil injection. That's what TPI is. TBI is throttle body injection. Or I have them backwards, I think. You're still mixing gas now. You're back to mixing gas.
Oh.
But it regulates itself with the throttle body. The other way, you have straight gas, you put it here and injects it.
Like the old outboard engines.
Yes.
Used to.
Well, didn't KTM at one point, wasn't it injecting gas through, like, into the cylinder itself?
That's all that.
Oh,
yes,
okay.
Yeah. But even that, so the newer versions of the KTM, the 23s, 24s, most people have, as soon as they buy them, they ride them, they hate them. They have to immediately take the CDI off and have it sent off and have it reprogrammed to reflash because their setup is junk. It doesn't work for anybody that actually knows how to ride.
I just talked to a guy this weekend, has a brand new 300, and he loves it now, but he had to take it and have it reflash.
So you go buy a $15,000 bike, you can't even ride it because the way it comes programmed is garbage. So you have to have the ECU and all that reflashed and redone to be able to ride it. Where with a carburetor, you just do a couple of things and you're good. To me, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of people, like with Yamaha, they haven't changed anything in 20 years. They haven't done it. Why? It's not broke. It works.
It works.
On the 2-stroke side.
Yes, on the 2-stroke side.
I'll say the 4-stroke side, they've changed a lot.
Yeah, but even on the 4-stroke side, they will change stuff to okay, it works, and then they pretty much leave it alone. They don't go crazy.
Yeah, I mean they've ran the same 5-valve motor setup for years now. And at one point they decided to run it backwards, flip the engine around. But even that was what? Close to 10 years now? Almost 10 years ago now?
It's been a while.
Is it 14?
I think it was 14 or 15.
Well, because whenever Stewart was on it, because he thought he was going to die.
Yeah, it's somewhere. It's been 10 years that they've stuck, but they've stuck with the same design. They've tweaked, which okay, that's fine.
Yeah,
but they haven't redesigned because it's not broke.
Complete redesign thing.
It's not broke.
So I'll tell you what. I've ridden them all, except for a fuel injected 2-stroke. But I've ridden carb 2-stroke. I've ridden a carb 4-stroke. I've ridden fuel injected 4-stroke. I will say, rideability wise, I do like the fuel injected 4-stroke the best. Just rideability wise. Working on it wise, I despise the fuel injected 4-stroke the most out of all of those options, because like we were on one of my 450s, it would rarely happen where it would cut out in the top end. I mean, it was maybe once a race, and it wouldn't die. It would just start breaking up. We did everything. We did everything electrical, wiring harness, fuel pump. I mean, we did everything, injector, and it would still just periodically break out in the top end. And it's like, what else do you do? You know, like we've replaced everything electronically, and just like the 4x4 out there that I have. I mean, that wiring harness has to be 20 pounds. Yeah. Like, I doubt it is 20 pounds.
No, it probably is. Like, it probably is if you put it on scale.
Massive.
Yeah.
Like, why? Why do we need all of this stuff? But rideability wise, it is very nice to ride. It's just when you're working on it, it's not. Yeah. You know, you're contemplating your entire existence, looking at this wiring harness, thinking how you're going to put it all back together.
Well, in the race car world, they've gotten to the point now they come in, if they're having an electrical problem, they plug in a laptop, and they will literally Control-Alt-Delete the car. And that's not exactly what they're doing, but they will reset the car. Yeah. Fire it back up, and it may clear that issue. Today, on my computer, I couldn't get pictures to load. I turned off the computer, returned on the computer, and all of a sudden my pictures were loaded. Yeah. Can you imagine? You go this weekend, you're on your 250 gas. You crank it up, it's blowing white smoke. Boom, boom, ding, 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 ding. Oh, Roxy's here. Ding, 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 ding. And then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, something's wrong. Hold on. Let me grab the MacBook. And you plug it in. It's like you're diagnosing. I mean, all of a sudden, that weekend warrior is not a weekend warrior anymore.
I mean, I'll tell you.
If it was that simple, though, that would be doable.
You're going to carry Android with you on the track with a cord?
No, but like if it was that simple to where it's doing something, okay, you just plug it in and it tells you what it is. That's, I mean, that's pretty.
No, y'all's bikes, you can't read codes off your bikes.
What codes?
See, on the 450s and my 4x4, we can plug in.
There's no codes.
Mine will read off codes to you. Mine has a check engine light and everything.
No, there is no. There's a brain box.
Well, I get that, but I'm saying
that's it. There's nothing there.
Really?
There's no brain.
But I would think on the 450.
I mean, you have the CDI, but that's it. Like, there's no. Hey, baby.
See, I would think.
Yours, you can.
Yamaha 450 quad. I would think they would have the same stuff on the dirt bike as well, where you'd be able to plug into a computer and be able to read your codes off.
I mean, I don't know about yours.
Well,
I know we can go in there and play with the mapping.
Yeah. So let me see.
I don't know. You would have to pull it up to see and dig into it to see what all's there. I don't know for sure. But like
I take everything I just said back. I remember on the 450 now, there's a check engine light. Mm-hmm. And that check engine light will blink, and however many times it blinks is what code you have. Yes. So it's not a plug-in. Now on my 4x4, there is a plug-in like a car, like an OBD port, except obviously it's not an OBD port. You plug it into the computer and you read it. But for a computer and the program to be able to run it, it's like $2,500.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's not worth it for a weekend warrior guy like me.
You don't have a fuel light, do you?
Yes, and I have a heat light, engine light too.
Okay. So yours probably does have, I don't know for sure,
A small brain.
but if something were to transpire, I think you probably could go in there and it'd show you, or one of those lights would flash whatever, which means whatever code, but you can't do nothing about it. You'd have to take it to a dealer in order to access it electronically.
Yeah. No, we're talking about
unless you have an aftermarket ECU.
Yeah.
You have to buy the software and have all that set up in order to be able to do it. Which the ECU is the cheap part. The software is normally where they get you. Okay, you want this? All right. Well, that's an additional $1,500 for the software.
So, what's your opinion on ECUs on dirt bikes? Because on a quad, it's needed. There's no tunability in the stock ECU, so you have to get a Vortex ECU because those quads with all the emission stuff on them, once you take the emission stuff off, it runs very lean. And like you put an exhaust on it, it runs very lean. So you have to get a Vortex.
You have to dump more fuel in it.
Correct.
Yeah.
So on a dirt bike side, is it even worth it to get a Vortex ECU? Unless
what are you like?
I can change the maps with mine.
But that's what I'm saying. For your average guy, is it worth it to?
If you have a carburetor, you don't. That's
no.
That's
but like let's say Trey's bike.
Honestly, no, you don't. Okay, so the Yamahas, you can do it. You sit there and do it on your phone. Mm-hmm. You can reprogram everything. It will not let you take the motor to the point where it'll blow up. You can program it however you want.
Okay.
If it is some extreme program setting that you put in there that it knows will destroy that motor, it defaults back to the OEM setting. Okay. It will not let you hurt that motor.
Yeah.
I want to say that the 24 KTMs, they have their version of that now. I don't know. I just know they have it now. I don't know how good it is, what you can and can't do. I don't know. Prior to that, and everybody else is a sealed unit. You can't do anything to it unless you go aftermarket. Suzuki had the couplers.
Now, do you need to tune your dirt bike though? Because on the quads you have to because of just the way it comes from the manufacturer. Do you need to on a dirt bike because there isn't those emissions stuff on it?
Well, there are. It depends on what you get. If you get a bike that is, so if you get like a WR,
like a dual sport bike,
yes, or a bike that is supposed to be the XCWF or whatever it is, that is supposed to be dual sport, streetish, but dirt appearance. Those do come with a lot of emission stuff on them.
Okay.
That they will run, but to do anything, you have to delete them. Those, then you have to have something done with the ECU just to be able to use it for the most part.
Because you're deleting all that other stuff.
Anything that is off-road or closed course comes with no emissions. I have a different outlook on a lot of this stuff than what you'll read and a lot of people will tell you. And a perfect example is they have the Supercross Futures races and all that.
Mm-hmm.
You have these kids on a 65 out there hitting the same jumps that these factory guys have $20,000 bikes. Oh, I've got to have all this horsepower.
Yeah.
Well, little Johnny that's 8 years old just cleared on a 65. Why the hell do you need 60 horsepower?
Yeah.
You don't. It's all, in my opinion, it's all a myth, a facade of, oh, I've got to have. No, you don't. You just need to learn how to use what you have.
Yeah.
Jace Kessler kid.
Yeah, and 250s, riding a bone stock bike, doing just fine.
He had a pipe. All he had was a pipe, and he qualified at Daytona. He should have qualified at Birmingham. He crashed like with 3 corners left and crashed.
But
even putting an exhaust on
it does not mess up the tuning as bad enough that you need an ECU.
No, the stock exhaust on my bike is awesome, but I had to have a spark arrestor.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I changed.
I put exhaust on that Honda I had, which made a big difference. But the bike ran fine. It didn't change anything. The Suzuki I had, I put exhaust on it. The guy I bought it from is a very long time Suzuki guy, very well connected.
Yeah,
knows his shit about Suzukis. They come with 3 different couplers. He said if you're going to run this exhaust, leave the coupler in it that's in it because it's the richest one. Otherwise, it will run a little lean. So it's simple as plug in, unplug. But realistically, for me, I probably could have run a different coupler. Would it have made a difference? I don't know.
Yeah.
I understand some guys when they get to a point and they're so fast that there's little things that, okay, well, let's tweak this. I get that. But as far as going way in depth and going overboard and programming and doing this and changing it, I don't really feel it's needed.
I think for me, the dummy in the room here, because you guys actually work on stuff. I have other people work on stuff.
I question his working though.
Hey, you did brake rotor and pads on your bike a couple months ago.
But I think on the motocross side, an ECU like a Git or a Vortex, because the fact that getting off the line is so important, and you can have a map that once you get to a certain RPM, it cuts that map out to get you off the line, and then the rest of it, I think
you have that.
No, I'll counter.
But I think in that world, but in the off-road world, where we have a minimum of 2 hours, I don't know if the mapping. Now I know Git sells a lot of them, and Vortex sells a lot of them, and they are programmable. But like me, I already have a few maps that I can. I mean, I can go online and find 15 maps. I can only run two at a time anyway. Yeah. So I don't know how many you need at my level.
Yeah,
at my level.
Yeah.
You have a counterpoint?
Yes. So before Bartow MX shut down and I was there racing it, so I would show up there and line up on my 20-year-old Yamaha and all these.
Tank?
Yep.
Big tank, big seat, tall seat.
Yep, all of it. I'd line up. All these guys have 250S, 450, whatever. I would pull the whole shot on them every fucking moto. On a 20-year-old piece of shit Yamaha. I sat there online. I'd blow it out. And I knew I timed everything. And I would pull the whole shot on them every fucking
125
moto.
or 250?
250. Every moto. Every moto. I'd start off in second gear and pull them every race. All it is timing. It's timing.
Yeah, but there's...
Can the pro Supercross guys still hear the gate?
I think with that...
Can they still hear the hydraulic?
As loud as it is, I think they can hear it. I think they can hear it.
Because I know that was the thing for a little bit is...
They used to look at the pins. I don't know how the hydraulic gate falls, but in the...
It's probably a piston.
Old school world, each of the gates had like a pin.
Yeah.
And as soon as that pin would move, you weren't looking at the gate, you were looking at the pin. And as soon as the pin would move, they would go.
But like the sound,
they can hear that, and supposedly next to the doghouse, you can really hear it. But still, if that's not the best line, those guys don't take it.
Yeah.
I think your argument is valid, except when the entire 22-man gate has that technology, Eli Tomac's not going to go, you know what, I trust my timing. I'm going to lock the front end down, I'm going to lock the back end down, and I'm going to have a map that when I twist the throttle, I'm only going to go to 7,200 RPMs, and when I shift to third, I'm now on my race map. Because all of them are that way.
They need to have a couple races on bone stock bikes. Just suspension.
I think that's what
exhaust.
they should do.
That's what they need to do.
SMX finales.
Yeah,
the SMX finale on
manufacturers would go nuts. The privateers would be like, sweet, yeah. But the manufacturers would be like, no. But I agree with you, and that was one of the things you and I've talked about, and we may have touched on it. A lot of these young kids, they're on these bikes that are built. They're not factory, but they're built bikes. and then they go to a factory team, and instead of riding a stock bike, this is what you have available. They don't even know what they like or dislike because here you get.
They've been on
this
a
bike.
modified, depending on who they are. They've been on a factory bike since they were on 65s.
Yeah.
Well,
They don't know what a stock bike is.
You can't tell me these factory teams with amateur riders on them. Their amateur riders aren't riding factory bikes.
They have certain rules, like they can't.
Oh, well, I know they do, but
they can't run.
They're not getting torn down after every race. Though,
No,
you know. I mean, think about when Deegan's bike was trying to get claimed at Loretta's a couple years ago, and how big of a fuss that was.
Well, even Mitch Payton will tell you. I mean, and Mitch has been around for years. And we never wanted our bikes claimed. I'm not putting that in because if someone claims my bike, now everything that I had cheat wise in that bike is now in someone else's hands.
Yeah.
So yes, they may have a built motor in it, but they don't have the built stuff that Kawasaki has, and they don't have the A-kit suspension. It's like in 250, they're not even allowed to run certain. They can run A-kit, but they can't run certain suspension that 450 can run. Like they can't run it. So I imagine in the amateurs, it's kind of the same way.
Well, I mean, they have stock class and modified class, and then everything kind of varies off of that. But I mean, you can, especially with like a 250F or a 120, like you can hear the difference between a stock motor and a modified motor.
Well, that's David Villeman. The year that Kiefer was jumping, I think it was Kiefer or Preston, one of the guys was jumping a triple from the inside and walked up into the thing, and David Villeman looked at him and said, cheater, a big boy. He called him big boy because he's just sitting in the stands. He could hear the difference in the engine note.
Well, especially on the new Yamahas, especially if they have the dual injector setup. I mean, you can hear that difference, whether or not they have the dual injector setup or not.
Well, real quick, we talked about the quads. We talked about the track.
We have gone way off topic.
We went off track, which is perfectly normal. I mean, we have a Sebring 12 Hours hat sitting up here because that's where I was on Saturday. I want to talk a little bit about the dirt race because we had a guest appearance by a guy that honestly, we're on the way home and I am Googling. I'm looking at Instagram. I'm looking at J-Day results. I'm looking at GNCC results. This guy's invisible, and finally you found him like at 9:30 Sunday night. Guy from Canada.
Yep.
Came up and smoked everybody, and was aggressively fast. I mean, I don't know when he came by you.
He just bebopping along.
Yeah.
Nothing crazy.
One of the coolest things is in that section where I was watching you, it was a little, you popped out into the field, and they came down this little creek bed and popped up, popped down, and went out in the field again. A guy had miscued it terribly and fell, and then was trying to fix himself, but decided to go across the track about the time the leader was coming. And everybody's yelling, "No, leader's coming!" And leader tries to go up on one of these mounds and stalls it and falls onto the guy. They get up. He never once said a word, didn't yell, didn't push.
Yeah.
He didn't Deegan him. He just got up and kept on going. By the time he got to the straightaway, he was in fourth gear, and it's like it never happened. You want to give it a go on his name or?
No, it's what
Alexandre
Guggen
or Gagne or
something like that. He's everything I've seen written is in some type of French or whatever.
French.
Yeah.
Canadian French.
Yeah. So he's
French Canadian.
Yeah, something like that.
With a name like that is somewhat French.
He's still down here right now though.
What's he doing?
Today he's riding with Hunter Newworth.
Okay.
Who DNF'd, but I know they're riding together today.
You know what's weird? Is that Jesse didn't race this race, but he was there on Saturday.
We talked about that a little bit because I was shocked that he wasn't riding. The only thing I could figure, and I know nothing about this program, Jason mentioned dude, it would be a nice day to pick up some contingency.
Yeah.
But maybe his responsibility this weekend was to hang out with the kids and be nice to everybody, and that was his thing because
Just
I know he's had a rough couple of weeks in the mud and the sand and rebuilding his stuff to get it ready, trying to, as Jason said, be prepped for the race before the race. So maybe he just decided, because he was even riding his 450 instead of his 250. So maybe he's just like, I'm just gonna pack it in, but I don't know. But it would have been a nice battle because he beat Garrett by about the same distance that Jesse's been beating Garrett. So it kind of would have been a cool battle to see those two go at it.
Yeah.
Because I honestly, I don't know who this guy is, but he legitimately
was pretty quick.
He was legitimately fast.
Yeah.
I would like to see him do some GNCC and see what he has because.
Yeah. Well, like I said, obviously I can't read what's written. I don't read French.
Well, come on. Next week you better have that.
But he has several number 1 plates, so I'm guessing from what I'm seeing is he is the region in Canada that he is racing in, that series, he is the top guy.
Is it like, does it start with an F?
Snowcross.
Yes, it was
like FM or something like
that.
that.
Yeah.
So there's a guy who comes and he races GNCC. His name's Gabriel Nod. He races XC2 at GNCC on the quad side. He's the multiple time back-to-back champion in Canada at that series. So maybe reach out to Gabriel Nod and say, hey, do you know this guy?
Yeah, it's like FMS. It's from the looks of it, it's like their version of GNCC.
Yeah,
it's kind of what it looked like.
But what's crazy to me is I'll look at some of Gabriel Nod's posts, and it's super sandy.
There's places in Canada that are nasty.
Yeah.
Gopher Dunes, not Walton. There's some others, but you listen to some of these guys talk about their experiences in Canada, and Southwick is a joke compared to some of those.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why he came down here and dominated this weekend in the same.
It's just weird because he's here, but there was no GNCC results. No, I literally couldn't find.
It's
anything
he came down just for the FTR.
Yeah.
Well, obviously there was bike week.
I mean, he was. If I had to guess, it's probably their off time, down here vacationing, go to bike week, go to super.
Yeah.
And who knows what type of connections he has? So he may be privy to a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah.
And so he comes down here, hangs out.
Oh yeah, especially if he's multi-time champion up there.
Yeah.
He might be doing PR stuff down here with Yamaha or whoever he rides for.
Any surprises in the results?
No.
Saw?
Everything was pretty much standard quote.
Where's Kyle?
Kyle
McAfee.
He was skiing.
So he wasn't there this weekend?
No.
He's taking the weekend.
No. Clay Lyons won Bet A. He finished 4th overall. Which is
good.
Roland's nephew.
So is Jason Lyons related to Roland?
No, they were not related at all.
At all.
They just had the same last name, spelled exactly the same.
So it's kind of like Lindsay C and Julie C. They're not related at all. And
you know what I was thinking about? So this weekend, Jason Lyons, quad guy, used to be a bull rider. His dad used to be a bull rider as well. So I was making a joke with my dad, is that why he's on a 4x4? Because it's bigger and reminds him of, riding the bull. Because there's some of the stuff he does, I'm following him on the track. And I'm like now that I think about it, look back on it, now that I know that, he rides it like a bull. Some of the way the bike moves underneath him and the way he reacts to the bike underneath him, he really does ride, I guess it kind of translates over.
If you watch a real bull riding event and you watch the good guys go, they flow with.
Yeah, they don't fight it.
Yeah, they flow with the bull, and they anticipate, and their big accidents occur when they anticipate what they think the bull is going to do, and the bull does something opposite. Yeah. So I'm guessing for him, it's that same feel of, I feel like the bike is going to do this because this is what it should do.
Yeah.
And as long as it does that, you get that flow. So were there any surprise results for you on the quad side?
Nothing too crazy out of the norm or anything like that. Just another big congrats to I guess we can kind of touch on this. Mike Tarango from Silver Masters, which is the last row on the quad side, finished 15th overall.
But he won a GNCC not too long ago.
No, I think he's gone undefeated this year at GNCC.
So he's not.
He's a fast old guy. Yeah. He's one of those guys.
Yeah. So I have a question. It's not always the easiest to pass. How does he make all his passes? Because you're making up a lot of time. If you're starting last.
Yeah, but also, 15th. You got to think there's probably 10 rows in the quad race. So you automatically have a 10-minute time adjustment, though, as well. Compared to AA class. Now, he does make a lot of passes, but he rides his clutch a lot. Like, they call him Rev Limiter Mike because he literally rides everywhere on the rev limiter. Like, if you go to an FTR or GNCC and there's a guy that comes by you just blah, 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 it's him. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or but. Nobody rides a quad like that guy rides a quad.
How old is he?
I mean, he's high 50s, I think.
And he's still pounding it out. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, dude, like, he's got to be doing a top end after every race. There's no way. Because, I mean, he's just, I'm surprised he doesn't overheat every race, if I'm being completely honest with you.
Any surprises on our end?
No, I mean,
Just standard.
yeah, I mean, there was 202 that did at least one lap.
Golly.
In the afternoon, which
Yeah,
is
in the afternoon, which is pretty
pretty
decent
big because
turnout.
I didn't pull off the morning, and the morning's always bigger.
Yeah,
Did you notice a lot of people braking this weekend?
no, just crashing.
There was a lot of people braking on the quad side this weekend.
There was a
I
lot
don't
of-
know what it was.
There was a lot of
but
crashing.
I saw probably 15 to 20 quads get pulled off this weekend.
The guy I met, the camper that I went
Yeah.
and took a tour of, the gentleman, I didn't get his name. He was in white C class beginning morning race. Super senior. He actually is 59 years old, but he had white backgrounds on his bike and had a National Enduro number on. And he's like, can I just use this? And they're like, turn that from an A to a C,
Yeah,
and you can do it. So or F, it was actually F. He was on row 3F at the last National Enduro. And he's from Tennessee, and he just came down. He went to bike week. He did Day in the Dirt. He came here, and he's just retired and enjoying himself. And he wanted to make a point, which was one of the points I wanted to bring up. Dude, there was a lot of green cutting this weekend.
Yes.
And he said at the beginning of the race, somewhere, not at the very beginning, he said, and he kept telling me, he showed me this is his example. Instead of going around, he just turned. And then he switched arms and he goes, he just turned. And he goes, I had nowhere to go, but he did it in a very Tennessee voice. And I guess the guy missed the double green, and instead of kind of wandering around, he just turned. And he said, I was going fast, not in the slow section, because y'all in the FTR, y'all got these starts that are fast. You don't have them. You go and you get into the woods. He goes, we were going fast. And he just turned. And he goes, I cleaned him out. And he said, I cleaned him out. I didn't even stop to see if he's okay because he turned in front of me. Had we been going slow, I would have checked on him, but I cleaned him out and I just kept on going. So the point is, I know FTR is FTR. That was a massively fast start this weekend.
Yes.
Massively fast start. I don't know why they're so opposed to having a right, left, right, or left, right, left, or I don't know why that is such an opposition. In Bartow, you guys take off and go straight down a hill at full speed.
Yeah.
Into a right-hand turn into dust or mud or slip, whatever it may be, the conditions that day. I don't know why FTR is so opposed. And also, stop having double greens if you're not going to please. For God's sakes, you could have put a person at the start of that race with a clipboard or a camera and said, hey, we're just going to sit right here at the beginning and we're going to go nip this in the bud. But if you're not going to have someone checking, and I know Laura Forshow or whatever is going to tell me, she was out there checking, but you could have nipped it in the bud at the start.
Yeah.
And
if you're not going to police it, don't have them. Just don't have them.
Yeah. I'll tell you, the guy who won Bryce's class this weekend, now Bryce broke like 4 or 5 miles in. We were watching his GoPro on Sunday. That guy who won his class, I watched him cut 5 double greens within the first 5 miles of the track.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, like,
I don't
what are they there
it.
for if you're not going to do it? Or if you're not going to.
And I know in
abide
tracks,
by 'em.
sometimes they have to have a lot of double greens, and there's not that many people. I get it. But there's got to be a better alternative or a better way, or maybe just more honest racers. I'm not really
But
sure.
I'll tell you,
I
some of
think
the
that's
double greens they had this weekend were a little weird. Like, it was like, now, I didn't miss any double greens because I'm just a perfect example racer. But some of the double greens, like, you'd come out of a corner, you'd be going, like, you'd be angled this way out of the corner, but the double green would be like a complete opposite direction of whichever way you're going, with no indication of where you're about to go next.
Yeah. All of ours on Sunday worked. were fine. The only one that, and I'll admit it right now, I missed every lap. But here's why. So we were in a section. It's one bike wide, one bike, and then you come, and the track does this. It's still one bike wide either way you go, but there's double greens right here. Why? We were in trees. This
But
wide.
no tape directing you to go this
No,
way or anything like that?
we were in trees, one bike wide. And for whatever reason, I'm assuming something happened at that spot. That's why this other line went around this little tree. But this one bike wide was double green. Like, why? Why do you need double
Now
green
watch,
there?
somebody's going to post this clip in
That's fine.
FTR, and they're just going to light Jason up in the
that's-
FTR Facebook group.
But it's
Because
all
my
right.
dad did that to a guy in Master C. He posted a video, and same thing, in the first half a lap, he missed about 4 or 5 double greens, and my dad called him. He pulled the video down. But there's still a link to it through another post. But like with that, there's evidence.
Yeah.
So to me, with that being clear evidence, okay, FDR, go in there, DQ him.
Yeah.
You're done. Like,
It's just kind of, and I know the first turn one there, but really
That one was a little weird.
it was weird. But honestly, a lot of people made it. But the funny thing is when one guy decided to cheat, it's like
Everybody
the
else
mob mentality is like, well, all right, I'm going.
yeah,
And it really was funny because you'd see guys miss it and they'd wander back.
yeah, there were some.
Except for the one guy that did this and
Yeah.
got T-boned. But no, and then some guys would be like, no, I'm hammered down. And they were just
Yeah.
going.
So on my beginner, and when I had the beginner class start with the almost 80 other people there, were there people standing there on Sunday?
There were people
Not
standing.
in the turn.
They were standing at the corner and on the left side, so
So
they wouldn't have been in the way.
turn, there was a bunch of people standing there,
In the turn?
including the FTR EMS side by side that I think somebody ended up hitting at one point or slid into or something in my row. But they were all inside this. So people were coming around the corner, not realizing that the double greens were over here and not over here, like where the exit of the corner is. And I mean, there was people slamming on their brakes, trying to not hit the people in the corner. There was people sliding into the people in the corner.
Yeah.
There was somebody down in the middle of everything. Everybody's trying to avoid this guy, so they're going to the left, which is on the inside of the corner where everybody's standing at, not realizing everybody's standing there because it's dusty. And I'm just praying to myself in my mind, like, Lord, please let me get through this corner.
I cannot believe how fast there was, if it was 20 people, how fast you had to get down to make it through those giant fence posts.
Yeah.
And then break to get into that corner. And I thought, dude, this is, I know we're risking a lot all the time. Every time we go out there, but some risks really aren't necessary. Like,
Yeah.
and FTR is doing an amazing job. The growth is unbelievable. I thought this track was cool, but why do we have to have these? That was a 5th gear start.
No.
4th gear.
It was a
No.
fast start.
The guys that were moving were moving.
They're just twisting it. But honestly, I'd rather have for that race, the way we started, I'd rather have it that way than the other way, coming through at the other gate.
Yeah.
Because the way they used to do it, you had the big roots that would come up from the big oak trees.
Yes.
And it was fast. And you had to go through the gate. And then you turn through the gate. And then you had all the roots that were right there. And then get, like, the way we used to do it, there seemed to be a lot more severe crashes off the start than doing this. Now, yeah, they could have turned it and slowed it down and broke it up more before they came through the gate.
If you went straight, I mean, it seemed like there was a lot of room out there.
Yeah, there was.
If they could have gone straight, turned, come back, and then turned, and then had a 90-degree right going out to that gate, all of a sudden there's 4 corners that have adjusted.
It's separated everybody and slowed everything down a little bit. Yeah.
And honestly, watching, I watched the morning starts and the afternoon starts from there, and there really wasn't too much carnage. A lot of the carnage happened after that hard left.
Yeah.
But just the amount of, I don't know, it's just one of those, I feel like at some point those starts are going to bite something hard because you can only get lucky.
Almost
so many
every
times.
one of FTR starts are in a field in a fast.
Well, I don't mind the
section.
field. It's what you do within that field.
Well,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. Almost every one of them are like a fast start.
Well, in Bartow a few years ago, we stayed up on top for a while. You went in, you made a hard left, you made a hard right, you went straight a little bit, then you went down.
Yeah.
And now they're just like, hey, we got this start here, and we're just plowing off. And it's just kind of funny watching, like, you go to a Sorks race, and I know there's only motorcycles at that race, but you literally make a turn, one turn, and you're in the woods.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden people are like, oh, I gotta adjust, and we get spread out a little.
Which, I mean,
It's about the same in the Mid-East.
way back when I was a kid, there was a couple of properties we went to that were on the smaller side. That's how the start was. Like, the start was like this long from here to the fence, and there was like 2 lines going into trees, and that was it.
Well, Brooksville did that a couple years ago. You started, and
Yeah.
we went straight into the trees, into the rock.
Yeah.
It was like, that was weird because you had guys coming straight turning, and that was. But I don't know. I know. I'm not critiquing because I'm not a part of a club. This club did a great job overall. I guess overall FTR, man, there was a lot of line cutting this weekend, and it's just like, if we can see it,
In the morning race, I'd say yes. The afternoon race, in general, I mean, obviously you're going to have guys here and there, but in general, from what I saw in the afternoon race, everybody's normally pretty solid and sticks to where they're supposed to go. Now, where Laura was standing with that that section she was standing in, I never even saw.
Oh, really?
Yep, never saw it. The entrance to it, I think I know where it was, but there was no sign. There was no arrow. There was no nothing.
So did you miss a line?
I stayed on the main track, which apparently after that point was the long way around.
Oh.
I think I know where they entered at, and I think I know where they came out at, but I never saw it.
So you missed the whole section.
Yeah, but
not skipping. You just missed
But like, it was a mud hole,
yeah.
and like, here's my thing: if you were going to double green a mud hole, like that's supposed to be the hard section, then you need to double green it and put fence in. Like, if you're wanting them to go through, okay, you have this 30-foot wide section. That's all you get. Then funnel it. Otherwise, like most events, if you have a legit mud hole, it's fair game at that point.
People will be going around.
Exactly.
In Florida, I swear to you, it was a football field wide. By the end of the race, it was a football field wide. The lines that were being chosen.
Yeah.
Guys were literally turning left, coming this direction, and then going back and turning right and coming across, like they gained 50 feet, but they rode a half mile to get there.
Yeah.
But no, overall it's good event. Want to give a congratulations to Jason, who has not had a great season.
Mm-hmm.
Put in a solid 4 laps, got 4 laps, and was actually smiling at the end of the race. So congratulations for finishing your race and battling the bike problems, the body problems, and other things, and getting a race under your belt. It's not exactly maybe where you want to finish, but you did pass a guy on the last lap too. Because
I mean, I ended up 6th, so I mean, finished decent.
I mean, you're racing against former AA guys. So it's not bad.
Happy. The gas worked great.
Did you have fun on the gas?
Yes,
fun on the gas.
Like I said, Sunday. Honestly, it's probably the best turning bike I've ever ridden. It will turn in on a dime and change direction as quick as you want it to.
Our net fell down over here, so the mosquitoes are coming.
It was a pain in the ass to get set up, but I think we got it done. And
how did the Ohlins suspension feel?
I mean, it worked good.
You're one of the few guys with the Ohlins suspension on out there.
No, you just ain't paying attention enough.
Oh, there's a lot of guys in the Ohlins.
There's several. There's a lot of guys that have the internals. I can't think of the name of the part, but the inside of the fork, the outer shell is whatever, the stock, and then the internals are different. No, it worked good. I actually, the last time I went into Croom, I rode for about 2.5 hours and basically stood up the whole time. And then the other day when I was out here with Gunner, I stood up the entire time with him. So during this race, I obviously wanted to finish and actually do something, but I really made a conscious effort to ride correctly, stand up, do what I need to do, and it actually worked. I felt good. Just I'm not willing to take a lot of the risks that these other guys are willing to take off the start.
Yeah,
it is what it is, and
but you did jog to the bike this time.
yeah, but it's still
You didn't walk.
Oh, I never walk.
You've walked before.
I have
you
walked
walk.
before,
Have you
yeah.
ever spun circles to your bike? Like done circles to your bike?
Period.
No.
I did that last race. It was enjoyable.
But it don't matter if I run or what. I still get the same start. Because the thing is, I'm not going to take the risk of that they're going to do.
Yeah. Well, congratulations, and let's, as we say in the coaching world, let's build on that success. But we'll jump forward. We're heading to Camp Coker. I can't believe it's already round 4 of the GNCC.
Yeah.
It seems kind of weird to me that it's already round 4.
Yeah, it's flying by.
Bike week's over.
Yeah, it's like boom, we're here. We're going into Camp Coker. This is one of your favorite rounds. I guess it's at a pretty cool. It's become one of the traditional rounds for GNCC. What are we anticipating? Are we weather-wise? We kind of have an idea what it's looking like up there.
So it's looking pretty good. There was a chance of rain. These mosquitoes are getting big.
Focus for 5 minutes and we'll.
Okay, so, it was supposed to rain Saturday, I think, but now it's looking like that's going away. It just looks like it's getting pushed back and back and back. So it might actually rain on Sunday or Saturday night.
Don't love that again.
But yeah, I think conditions are going to be good. The past few years, I feel like it's rained on Friday pretty hard. I know 2 years ago, I think, it like downpoured heavy on Friday. Like there was flood watch there and tornado warnings there. So,
does that make the track slippery, or is it so sandy that it just absorbs?
Yeah, there's really no. So they run us on some clay roads.
Okay.
And
that can get a little slick.
Yeah.
Dude,
I don't know why I'm having a giggle attack right now. But
we're about to get carried away by the mosquitoes here soon.
There's 3 of them on my left.
Go hang up the thing.
You think it'll?
It's too late now.
So
So
okay, let me compose myself.
So does the track handle water?
Most of the track handle water. There is some areas where there is clay, like the real strong clay base.
Yeah.
There's not really a mix to it. It's just straight clay. Those sections obviously don't handle water as well. But like I was saying, this track, if it's wet, which typically, regardless of if it rains or not, it's usually the ground is moist. So it usually does get dug pretty deep. Deep regardless. So I'm excited about this weekend. I think the track is going to shape up good regardless of if it rains or not. At least good in my opinion, because I actually enjoy the rough tracks like that. Because I view them as a challenge. Like, can I push myself to go through? And my goal is always to have my last lap faster than my first lap. So that's going to be my same goal going into this weekend is, knowing that the track is going to break down probably as rough as it will break down. Going into it, my goal is just to make sure, same thing. Last lap is faster than my first lap because that means I'm pushing as hard as I can. So,
okay, real quick for you, is there ever a chance that an XC2 guy wins the overall on the quad side?
No.
Okay. On yours, is there a chance on a dry race that we see an XC2 guy win the overall?
Anything's possible. Traditionally, whenever they've been in that position, it's normally been muddy. So I guess we'll see.
Yeah, that's something we didn't get to talk about last time was Josh Toth winning the overall in the on an XC2. By the way, I guess from everything I was reading, is pretty much straight privateer guy living out of the van with a mechanic and.
Yeah, he's riding for Enduro Engineering, but I don't know what that
entail
consists of.
Yeah,
they're his main sponsor. And I guess he's copying basically what Ryan Sipes was doing there at the end of his career, where he listed it somewhere where he's running, X amount of GNCCs, X amount of this, X amount of that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I would guess if he keeps doing good at GNCCs and puts himself in title contention,
Yeah,
I would think he might alter that schedule a little bit.
Yeah, I would sure think so as well. I mean, if you would have asked me that same question a few years back, I would have said there's a possibility. Like if Hunter Hart was still racing XC2 back then or like that. But ever since really Cole Richardson and Hunter Hart were the last two, maybe even John Glada, but they were really the last guys to get up there in the overall on the quad side. On the dirt bike side, I feel like it's not uncommon to see a XC2 guy, kind of up there.
Yeah,
they're
normally
overall.
up there. Yeah, they're up there, but where they've been the last two races is
really up there.
Yeah. Well, even the boy from A250, finished 7th overall.
Yeah,
I mean that's I wouldn't say it's not common to be that high up
consistently.
Yeah,
and we're interested. We'll see what transpires. For Jason and I, we're actually off this weekend. This is the first weekend that I will have been
4 weeks.
You're off for 4 weeks.
Yeah, that's when the next race is.
Wow,
that's when the next FTRs is 4 weeks away. Really?
Well, this is the first time I will have been home. There's no race for me to go to this weekend. So last weekend I was at Sebring at the 12 hours, then at FTR. Weekend before we were in Birmingham. Supposed to be in Indy for the Supercross, but the rider we've been supporting and helping a little bit was sick, so we didn't go. So I got a chance to go to Sebring and see my car racing friends. So we're home this weekend. So next week it'll be MJ and I discussing GNCC. But real quick, you wore the goggles again with the film on them. Mm-hmm. How'd they do?
Oh yeah.
I mean, I didn't wipe them off.
You didn't have to wipe them off even through the mud or anything?
Yeah, I didn't. I never touched them. I got straight roosted numerous times to the face, and I never touched them.
That's cool. That's cool. Huh. So overall, you're pretty impressed with how they're working?
Yeah, I mean it's works. We'll see how long they last, and how they hold up. But so far,
how long that film, whatever it is on it, lasts for.
Cool. Well, very good. Well, this has been episode 47 and a half. The Mosquitoes have now become victorious and are going to carry us away. He is Jason Crowley with Crowley Racing and whatever else he wants to be with. He's MJ Adonis with Santos Racing, Adonis 525 Racing, and a multitude of sponsors. Follow him on Instagram and like and share and go into his bio. And I'm Trey Heath with Michelle and Trey Real Estate. This is episode 47 and a half of the Beyond the Curve. The MX podcast goes off-road and very off track. Yes. But we have a good time doing it. We'll see y'all next time. Bye-bye.